Hello, we're live in front of City Hall. This is day 300 of the occupation. 300 days ago, we came out here. And we're just going to be doing a recap of the last 100 days. So anything from day 200, which was on 420, and day 300, which is today. And first, I want to talk about is what we was dealing with around the 420, around day 200, and that was 10 days after Faustin Guaitico was murdered, and 9 days after Jose Gonzalez Jr. was shot while running away. So that was, but at this time we didn't have no event centered around Faustin Guaitico or Jose Gonzalez Jr., but it was still very much on our minds and still something that we talked about very heavily and that weighed a heavy part on each day. So I think before we really talk about...
Were we still putting chalk at the administration building 10 days?
We would have been in some capacity.
Yeah, in some capacity. I think so.
I
think so. I believe so. I believe so. That's a good question. I didn't have that on the days, but what we were still experiencing at this time was regular 6 a.m. Washaways where city employees would come out, and at 6 o'clock in the morning they would do this. Come out and wash away chalk all around this sidewalk. At times they would do this in the rain. While it was raining, while raindrops are coming down, they're washing away the chalk. And they're going, this is a one-way and that's a one-way over there. So they have to maneuver and really work and earn an all-day paycheck just to wash away this chalk. So this is some one of the regular things that happened on many days in this last 100 days. And another thing that happened on many days were the 4 a.m. raids, or the attempted 4 a.m. raids. So I'm going to pass that off to whichever one of y'all want to take this.
Was it? Yeah,
Go ahead.
4 a.m. raids. The police would come at 4 a.m. Leslie would be sleeping, and they just show up, sometimes as many as like 20 cops in the middle of the night, saying what the chief now, the interim chief, Randy Burke, came a couple of the times. He told Leslie that he used big, huge words, and then said, tear down this, or get the rest of this junk, and then went to tear down the memorials. As it got warmer, they would come by at like 3:30, and there'd be like 5 cops roll by in a half hour from 3 to 3:30, and it would get me to think that they were gonna raid at 4, and so I'd get all ready for them to raid, and then they wouldn't come. So that's it. And then, now I don't even think about it. They don't. Oh, wow. That was loud.
And the stopping of these raids, I believe, coincided with Randy Burke getting promoted or becoming interim chief. I believe that when
I don't think he ever came here when he was the chief.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It stopped when he became the interim chief, and while he was assistant deputy chief, he was in charge of this district. He was in charge of District 2. So I don't believe they started until he came into to be in charge of District 2, and I believe they stopped when he got promoted to interim chief. Now, as somebody who was just seeing this online and seeing this, the police come, 15, 20 police officers come at 4 o'clock in the morning while people are sleeping, trying to actively steal things. What was just your thought just seeing it online, seeing it on social media?
It was something that I like in the context that it was happening, I had never seen before. So sometimes I didn't know what to think. I think I was thinking one of the things was that if more people were down here, or would they have done the same thing, different things like that. Happy that it was being recorded and filmed so that, even there's things about it we'll process later. And I'm learning that things that happen in a moment, I may not understand the significance of it, but a day, 2, 3 days, so further down the line. And has been said before, the video footage is there for people to watch it, and so.
And some of these raids that were done were almost like a contest. Like, it was at one point I remember watching the video where he telling you to pick up the stuff. I don't know if this happened in the midst of these 100 days, where he telling you to pick up the hand warmers, and you saying, yeah, it's like a go ahead. Do you want?
No, I agree. Go ahead. You was making a point.
No, I was getting ready to pass it off to you.
I was trying to go. I've been trying to go through and see the dates for some of the things. So it looks like we by the time we got to August. By the time we got to April 20th, it was mainly the chalk was mainly concentrated at down at City Hall. But I think that sort of akin to what Antar was saying about having, if it was more people, how it would have been less likely that they would have been able to execute the raids in the manner in which they were executing them down here. One of the roadblocks we ran into with the Winnebago County Sheriff deputies murdering somebody, and then with the Rockford Police Department shooting somebody within 24 hours, was that to accurately have direct actions that address both of those situations, we sort of had to be in two places at one time. And we, as much as I believe that the mayor of Rockford should speak about Faustin Guaitigo being murdered, and I believe the mayor of Rockford should be concerned about the Winnebago County Sheriff deputies. I know that how political nuance works and how political games work is that Faustin Guaitigo will be something that is completely pushed to the side as far as any Rockford government is concerned, or any type of responsibility being taken by the Rockford mayor is concerned. And so we all felt that we had to go to Winnebago County to address what happened by the Winnebago County Sheriff deputies. But the problem was that we were already sort of a skeleton crew in some sense at the City Hall. And so once we tried to go to Winnebago County, it became difficult to chalk down at the Winnebago County Board, stay and wait for them to wash the chalk away and film that at the Winnebago County Board, and then also be chalking here and then have somebody filming it as the chalk was being washed away here. And then as most people, a lot of people probably don't understand this, but then go throughout the rest of the day and still try to find means to be productive. And I think that's something that we've, in this last 100 days, have maybe done more than we did in any of the other previous 200 days, the amount of productivity that we've had. And it's draining writing in the chalk and then filming them washing the chalk away. And, it's never, every time that they've come in to wash the chalk away, or every time that they've come to tear down the memorials, when I see them, it's an adrenaline rush. My heart starts beating fast and my blood starts boiling, and I'm trying to get my phone out and record, and I'm trying not to be too upset and be too angry, trying to articulate what it is that's going on in case anybody is watching it for the first time. And by the time all of those things are done with in the morning or afternoon, it is very draining. And so it got to the point that by the time we did get to April 20th, where it wasn't conducive for us to go all the way, and it's not a far walk to the county board or a far drive to the county board, but it was just spreading us thin, and so that's one of the first things I think of in the last 100 days. And when I think about the chalk being washed away, and then when I think about the raids, for me, I think more of the raids in the first 200 days, because I think some of the more traumatic ones, in a sense, was maybe in those first 200 days. But I think the most significant raid I can think of in the next 200 to 300 range would be when we got arrested. When I got arrested in Mobile, Then y'all bailed me out, and then you got arrested down here, and they came and said they was going to take the stuff, and then they came back later and took the stuff. It was probably the closest I ever came to losing my emotion when they did a raid. They came and like ripped the blankets off of me. I had just been out of jail. It was probably the first times I had to remind myself that it was the police. You know, they pulled the blankets and I pulled back and seen all the cops there, and I'm having to remind myself this is the cops, it's the police. I didn't even, I just laid down. I don't even think I got my phone out and recorded too much. I just, so that's for me. Those are some of the thoughts that I have about the specific topics that we just mentioned for this last 100 days of the 300.
Then I'd say these last 100 days could almost be. We had talked earlier at some point about we talked previously about maybe naming the weeks a certain thing, or if we was to name these last 100 days something, I believe it would be almost city market season, just getting ready for city market. And the first action of that was them releasing the map of city market when we was all down here. It was the art scene was going on down here, and a community member had sent us the map that was released, and just the fact and the very nature of them shutting down State Street, when in fact that was almost mind-blowing to see that this was their footprint. The fact that they're going to shut down all of State Street for three food trucks. The first week was 3 food trucks, and that's it. What was your first initial thoughts about just seeing the city market map and the layout?
My first initial thought was, for the city, the first phrase that hit my mind was mission accomplished. On paper, they figured out a way to spend more taxpayers' money and really not even attempt to justify how or why it had to be spent that way, because the public never questioned how much money it cost, and the public still hasn't questioned how much money does it cost every week to do this. When you looked at City Market last year, it ended at least $500,000 in overtime with sometimes 40 to 60 officers, and the general public didn't question why it took that many officers at the height of City Market when it started with 6 officers and the street was never blocked off. So when I saw how big the footprint was, all I thought was the city, in plain sight, they're going to rob the taxpayers blind, and people aren't going to question how much this is going to cost. Is it necessary? Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Just a.
But it's a win. Go ahead. That meant we won, though, right? Exactly. Like, we won last year. This year, we're inching along, doing what we can. But we already won last year because they shut down the whole street from First Street to Wyman. Right. So, and that's what we went into the crosswalk for originally.
It did feel, after I got over the feeling of, wow, this is crazy that they shut down the whole street. It did get that feeling of, is this a win for us? They shut down, just a manner of how many businesses does this got to affect? Them shutting down the whole State Street bridge, you not being able to cross or nothing. So it did have that feeling of a win. And one thing that has been consistent, I don't know if it started, I don't think it necessarily started after day 200, but it has seemingly picked up in these last 100 days, and that has been criticism over language, criticism over certain words that are being used. What are your thoughts on whenever you hear somebody say, oh, you don't need to say that, or the people who walk past here and get upset over words that are written in chalk?
Okay. My first thought is, so we as a group, as the May 30th Alliance, we have TikTok. I want to say I don't have TikTok. I want to be I do not have TikTok. However, they get shared around different places. There's this one, she's a black, younger female. She has a TikTok, and her little grab she does is a list of people that it's going to hell, but not for obvious reasons. And one of the people, or one of the lists of people or groups of people that's on the list is black people who engage in respectability politics. And so anytime, it's not usually black people, and if it is black people, it's typically the older black people who are, who have it more indoctrinated and ingrained into their heads that, the nicer that you are or the better that you treat, specifically white people, that the better the outcome will be. That you shouldn't, quote unquote, poke the bear, or you shouldn't agitate them, or you should be completely respectable, so there's no there's no misinterpretation that you're being aggressive, there's no mischaracterization that you're violent, or that there's any threat that you pose to them in any way. And I'm completely against that narrative, because as black people, we're allowed to have feelings. We're allowed to have emotions. We're allowed to be angry. We're allowed to be upset. We're allowed to be loud if we, feel that, a lot of times people get louder, you're having an argument or whatever, you feel like you're not getting your point across, you feel like you're not being heard, so you're quick to just raise your voice. And that's allowed. However we feel about healthy discussions, how those develop, that's one thing. But to equate somebody with being, unhinged or violent or some type of threat because they raise their voice when other people of other races are not being characterized in the same way, when they have, the same energy, or when they have the same emotions, or when they have the same display of how they feel, that, that's not equal. That's not an equal response to how people are outpouring their emotion. So when we're, out here and we're talking about people are literally being murdered in the street, people are literally being shot in the street, people are having, their faces bashed into the street and being arrested in violent ways for nonviolent crimes, people are being killed for, over nonviolent things, over crimes that they supposedly have the law on their side to be seen as innocent until proven guilty. People are losing their lives over this, all because they have, a darker skin color, they come from a different background, they come from a different neighborhood, a different race, a different ethnicity, a different origin. Like, that gets people upset. And when you look at the fact that it's been happening for years and years and years and years, and nothing has still been, done about it to completely get rid of it, to completely get over these issues that we've been having with this system for the years and years, and I don't mean years and years since the 90s or years and years even since the 1800s. I mean years and years, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So when we get to a point, and it's 2021, and we're still coming to the table or trying to sit at the table with these healthy discussions and try to get people to recognize that we're still having the same issues that people were marching for in the 60s to get our civil rights for, we're still having the same issues that people were fleeing to the north to try to avoid, stuff that was going on in the South, and we say fuck, or this is bullshit, or we express ourselves in ways that would be considered, volatile language or bad language, or we don't care. People are dying. Like, people are literally dying, and that's what they don't get, is because we're out here to talk to people, to raise awareness, to let everybody know that these issues are still things that we're trying to discuss and trying to bring up and still trying to bring some type of recognition towards, and people are like, but you said fuck. We don't care. People are dying. Like, that should not be. If you are more concerned about the language that is being used by people who are being oppressed, by people who are being murdered, by people who are losing their lives and their livelihood, if you're more concerned with their language about their feelings of oppression than you are about the fact that these things are still going on after centuries, then you never really cared to begin with. You want us to be respectable. We want to not die. We want to not be murdered. We want to be able to live out our lives, have meaningful lives. Have lives that's, full of compassion and love and equality. And we've been begging for that for hundreds of years. And after a certain point, when it comes to, people are just fed up. People are fed up. People who have been in this fight, people who understand the history of, this country and the racism and the deeply rooted evil throughout all these systems, come to a point where they know that they've been marching. They know they marched in the street, and they were demonized and criminalized for marching in the street, in the 60s during the civil rights. Girl, I'm going to tell you right now, get the fuck off our feed. Get the fuck off our feed. Get the fuck off our feed. She know exactly who she is. Get the fuck off our feed. And somebody, if you could see that this dumb bitch is watching, get the fuck off our feed. Just get off. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Because these two women across the street, because we're sitting out here having a fucking protest, they're gonna sit and watch our live video. For what? Your fans. Really, your fans. And this is why we use that type of language, because they talking about, we're stalking them. They got no contact stalking orders. You're watching us right now. That's weird. You're sitting at home at 7 o'clock, 7:30 at night, watching us on our live feed. You're weird. That's weirdo shit. Get off our feed. Anyways, I pretty much made the point that I was trying to make anyways, because, at the end of the day, like, if we came out here and we're talking about people being murdered in the street, or people, having their lives stolen from them by a racist system for, the only fact that they belong to a different race, then that should be where the concern lies, because that is way more of a concern than people just being, vulgar, or people having, some type of language that they're talking about. It shouldn't be based off of certain words that are being used. I think that if you're supportive and you're behind the ideology that, the police are an issue, that systemic racism is an issue, then don't be so concerned with how people voice their frustration about those issues. Be concerned about the issues. And get off our shit.
You want to go? Yeah, somebody say, go ahead.
With being a part of the movement from day one, I've seen many instances where people, you can see it in the way they're processing what's happening. They can relate and understand if they saw a dog die in the street out here. They would have the proper emotions and the proper response to say, you would be able to hear in their voice and see in their actions the frustration, their anger. You would see them distraught, and you would hear this phrase, someone has to do something. But because we're talking about people of color being killed, none of those responses register. And I'm telling you as an eyewitness, I've seen people talk about cases where a person beat a dog and then they ended up getting major charges, and then people having a conversation about, hey, did you see that media report of that person who killed that dog? And you can see this anger that comes out of them, of the frustration that an animal was killed. But these same people, it doesn't register. It's not that it's not possible. It's not happening, and that's a free will choice. They're not allowing themselves to have empathy or sympathy for someone that doesn't look like them. It's not my opinion. America knows this. That's what this is. That to see people look at chalk, to bypass every name that they saw where the person was either murdered in cold blood or beaten half to death, and then say, wow, why did you use that word there? So you mean to tell me you read all those names, you understand the backstory enough to know that these people were killed, but you're pinpointing a swear word. And the swear word triggers the anger, but you sidestep the anger that should have registered the fact that someone died with no weapon in their hands, that someone got shot in the back as they were running away from an officer. None of that registered. And I feel like that's not that it's not possible. It's a person saying in their own heart on a personal level, it doesn't register because I don't care. Their actions say it. They don't have to say I don't care. The actions are speaking. So to everyone that's ever walked up to me, got my attention, and I hope they're watching, and said, well, why would they do that? Why are you guys doing that? Why? And I said, did you read it, though? Did you read the names? Well, yeah, I did. And I said, but that didn't make you angry? And then they pause. And I said, you came over to tell me about words around those names, but you never addressed the names once to me. And I'm just making this, as far as a reference directly to the words. I feel that it's very petty for people to pinpoint those words and then get focused on the minute details and really sidestep the fact that we're out here because of murder at the hands of police officers. And
want to fight. People want to fight. No,
well, absolutely. People want to get physical over people's This is where America is right now. In 2021, people want to physically get into altercations over people standing up for equality, justice, and righteousness. That it literally triggers anger in them to get physical with females, males, doesn't matter. Children, doesn't matter. America was completely triggered for almost 3 years when black people said our lives matter. But all lives matter. Well, if all lives matter, we wouldn't have to say that, would we?
We're good. All right, another thing we talked about already is the ascension of Randy Burke to the ascension of Randy Burke, who in the 100 days previous, in the 100 to day 200, Randy Burke had gotten a promotion and he had became assistant deputy chief. And on day 200 to day 300, on May 1st, he took office as the interim chief. And on May 1st, Dan O'Shea, left office. He retired after 5 years as being a police chief. Now, we're going to talk about that later, but I also want to talk about there's kind of three things that coincide with each other. The We Demand series, which has been, I think I can speak for all of us, has been excellent. Each episode or each short clip that get released, it has been excellent. And also the May 30th Alliance Podcast Network and the May 30th Alliance newsletter. You was the first podcast to get released, Social Construct of Leslie. It's been on hold for a little bit, hasn't it? Where is that today? Where is that today?
I think one of the things I wanted to do is start being more concise about some of my memories and recollection of things that happened, things that were happening back then. My main thought process when I started creating the podcast was to go back to the first protest of last year on May 30th, 2020, and just give some of my personal experiences on different days that came after that. But I think soon after I started doing it, one of the things that happened is some of the arrests began to happen. City Market began to happen. The Food Truck Tuesdays began to happen. We started doing the Live from Occupied City Halls a little bit more, the Ride for Readings a little bit more. Me and Kay started doing the Live from Occupied City Hall podcast a little bit more. This is the third week where me and Antar on Thursdays have been together and started and having a live that was sort of orchestrated and planned and set up ahead of time. And so I think that from doing these different live streams and podcasts, I've gotten better at articulating certain issues, and I've gotten better at remembering things, and I've started getting better at writing things down topics that I want to hit, and gotten better at looking up things on the laptop. And so I think one of the things that slowed me down and why I stopped doing that is I wanted to get to a place where I could have news articles pulled up and have remember specific things and not be sort of going so much off the cuff. So I think that I've been slowly getting more to that. But I think that the Live from Occupy City Hall podcast has been something that's been beneficial. And I've been trying to, I've been putting them on the Facebook and on the YouTube as well, and so I think they're getting more traction and more play on those things. But I think, in general, that's the manner in which we've been creating content and putting content out and speaking on things that are happening in the city and local issues, and and I think another one of the things has been that. Everybody's personality has came out on some of the lives, whether it be just through the lives when there's things going on down here, or whether it be through the lives with speaking and talking. So I do think that there has been, in general, these last 100 days, the content that we've been creating has gone a long ways towards getting people more informed and understood about the issues and what we're out here for, and then also I think ingratiating us with people and with the community. And so those are some of my thoughts about the podcast.
And all these things, they're all new to me. They're all new to me. But what do you think? I'm passing to you. Just about the role of media as it pertains to issues like this, when you talk about police terrorism, mass incarceration, and racial injustice.
I think, like what it has been said already, that it's important to have a platform that's independent and a platform in which you can tell the story, from your perspective, or tell your side of the story. So, and it's been effective in that way, I think. And then to think that it's only growing, has the potential to, and it has exposed, like I think someone said the other day, like a reality TV where you have seen in real time things that you may we read about them, or I listen to someone read about them, and then you see it like on one of the lives, or so I think it's been powerful, and as someone has said, it's going to be even useful as time goes on. It's like vintage. It gets it is useful now, and it'll continue to be useful.
One of the big things that happened was the issuing of warrants, and the first warrants that was issued, they stemmed from the alderman swearing in ceremony, and I just set the scene. I remember the day very well. It was raining. It was evening time, and we had seen. I believe we had seen on the poster board that they got in front of the window that this was going to be happening, and it was a bit of a debate of, okay, what can we do if you were to do something? What can we do? And then it just became, all right, we gotta do something. Something got to be done. So it was a lot of it was a lot of interactions at the end, and altercations and confrontations at the end. What was your thoughts just while it was going on? It's raining. The speaker was dying at times. Speaker was getting wet, and it was a chaotic day. But still, did feel like, okay, we had some type of presence here. We still were impactful here.
I think the main thing I think about is it was some kids that was inside, and I think about how now the charge that we ended up getting, disorderly conduct, goes towards this idea that people were disturbed in the midst of this happening. And I think one of the things that was in the moment I wasn't paying attention to it, but later on was funny, is how little the kids who were there were bothered at all by it, and how funny they thought it was, and how they was waving, and they was on their phones and filming, and so this idea that it was this threatening manner, this threatening thing that was happening is laughable, because any of the people that would have been the most vulnerable, the being the children, were almost entertained by it in some sort of a sense. And I think one of the other things I think about is alderperson Gina Meeks, when she walked out, she said, "Bye, Leslie." And at the time, I sort of recognized her and knew who she was a little bit, but we were so into the moment that I wasn't really taking the time to to consciously register things. And then I think the other thing as well is how in some of these moments it's felt like almost a move of desperation, almost like it's the end of a quarter or end of a game, and you know you can't make up the score that you're behind by, but you just start shooting, or you just start throwing the ball down the field. It was nothing we could have done to make the people who ran for older people to be more cognizant about the issues, to care about these things more. In that moment, there's nothing we could have done to replace them with people who we thought were better suited. The mayor of the city ran unopposed, but it felt like something had to happen. It had to be something that made it so that they knew that it was some portion of this city or some portion of this community that was not just okay and just passive about these people taking their offices, and that the issues that were prevalent when they campaigned and then when they got voted in would be prevalent through their stay. And I think also that I believe that this is a day that'll be memorable for all of those people, especially any of them who are getting sworn in for the first time. I'm sure that it was very memorable for Bill Rose. We had a back and forth with Bill Rose that day. Shout out to Bill Rose. And so I think that I think that it's important that those people coming into office, that they remember that the way they came into office, they remember the context and the climate that they entered this office with. So when the next person gets shot by the police, or the next person gets beat by the police, or this next issue manifests again, they can't say that they were ignorant to it. They can't say they were blind to it. One of the older people even came down here a couple days afterwards, and we had a conversation with them, and we gave a pamphlet to him, and it was an officer that they had been working with in a different career path that they didn't know had murdered somebody, and we gave them the pamphlet, and they found out about that murdering. And so I think that for me, that those are some of the things that I think of altogether off back about the initial day there at the protest, at the swearing in.
Benita Harvey too. Benita Harvey don't get unchecked too.
What's up? You're right. We gonna all go in different. When they come, we gonna all take off in different spots. We all take.
Day 300.
Day 300.
Day 300. Day 300. How y'all doing?
That's good.
Doing all right. Yeah, we did see that. Bill Rose.
Yeah, Bill Rose. Shout out Bill Rose.
I was just giving him a shout out.
Shout out Bill Rose.
Yep, I seen that. It ought to be interesting to see how that goes. It's another older person who got some DUI charges too. So from what I heard, one of the people who just got voted in. It's like I think it's a whole DUI club up there. That's what probably go.
Somebody said Kyle got one.
No, really?
Somebody said Kyle got one.
Drinks afterwards.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Okay. Now let him work you too hard.
I was quitting every day. That's why I quit.
Well, whenever you quit, we be right here. We be here. You can come help us. All right.
I got 3 more years.
Okay.
All right.
We'll be here.
That's like 900 some more days. 900 more
Yeah.
days. They 1,000. They 1,000.
Yeah.
We have Miss Rosie's
Guess
time.
what? I stay out here in the summer. I
The
ain't
ni-
in the LA Well, I ain't sleeping outside. I like when y'all say, outside.
You like that? We gonna make sure we get one at the end for you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. It's good seeing you.
All right.
All right. Bye.
All
Love
right.
y'all.
We'll
Love
see
y'all.
ya. We'll see ya. Love y'all.
To his point.
Yeah, we will.
Hold on.
Watch every day.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
see you pop up. I'll be seeing y'all pop up.
Okay. We're gonna keep going.
I wish I was down here when that lady was talking.
Yeah.
You don't even know.
Yeah.
I got to school them at work. They don't know. Schooling them now at work. They don't know.
All right. All right. We'll see y'all. We'll see ya. Bye. Okay. And the one of the biggest things, and this was the first launch into what a judge would call protest season, was the return of Food Truck Tuesday, Food Truck Tuesday season 2. What was your
Memorial
thought?
Day.
Memorial Day. Yeah. Hold on.
That was the real kickoff.
Memorial Day. Yeah. That was later in May though.
What was it? Okay.
That was later in May. May, it was at the very end of May. Yeah, that was at the very end of May. What are your thoughts about how Food Truck Tuesdays went this year and how it's going so far this year?
It's a tough one. It's a double-edged sword at Food Truck Tuesdays. It's like lame. You know, I don't know how to say. You know, it's like it's almost not protesting. We're just, you know, doing a live, talking on the speaker, and it's like all approved, and we go where they put their spot around us. We went to a spot the first time, and we've gone back to the same spot every time. This year, the big difference is Ari and that lady branching off, do their own thing, and then the conflicts with Dan over how they're doing their thing, and conflicts with the state's attorney and his wife, and
That was the first week, right? The state's attorney.
I think it might have been the second week. Was it?
Yeah, what? I don't know if it's the first week. Was the first week I had the megaphone?
I think it's the first week because that was
that makes
we
sense.
got arrested. That was the arrest warrant.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, it was the first week because I remember thinking I never got arrested on a Tuesday. I got arrested on Food Truck Tuesday.
Yeah, Leslie was really stringing together the arrest there for about a week and a half. You know, like I was still leading at that point, and then Leslie just went for the pass.
Took that Drake song to heart. But there was a point to where Food Truck Tuesdays was more of a calm. I'll go calm vibe, to where there was no police there. It was really a whole different vibe than what City Market was.
Yeah.
So when it gets to the first week of Food Truck Tuesdays, and I was not involved in Food Truck Tuesdays last year. I was still working at the time, so by the time I get off work, I'd just be so tired to where I'm just gonna go home. So this year was my first year going to a Food Truck Tuesdays event, and it wasn't long out that I was there that I was like, I'm gonna go do something else. And then what came from that was a conference. I don't even want to say a confrontation with Jay Hanley, but Jay Hanley was there. I recognized him. I talked about things that he hasn't done yet. I asked for the video to be released about some of these issues. The video to be released about Denzel Duvant. But and what stemmed from that really was Dan, who is I'm not sure exactly what his title is or exactly what his role is, but he manages
that site.
Yeah, he's has some type of he's in power. He's in some type of power. I don't know how much power or what the actual title is, but he has some type of power over Food Truck Tuesdays. Yeah. And he had a problem. He had a problem with some. He has said that some of the people who were going to Food Truck Tuesdays had made calls to the police, were asking for more police presence to be there because it was somebody talking on the megaphone. And this go to the same issues that happen that take place at City Market, to where it's not. I don't even think it's necessarily the fact that that I'm speaking on, or that somebody is speaking into a megaphone. I think what is said through the megaphone. That's what that go back to the language thing, to where it feel like, especially when it comes to some of these white folks that take issue with the language or take issue with the megaphone being used. Where I feel like okay, if what stops you from supporting this movement or supporting these things is language, or what stops you is the volume of these things, you was never trying to support it in the first place. So, but since then it was like a less contentious. It was like a 3-4 week where it was somebody was trying to antagonize, somebody was said some things about take it somewhere else. Just weird things like that, just racist things like that, racist-infused things like that. Then, what you was talking about, we was to get arrested you was to get arrested, and I was to get the message that you was not here no more. I was to get the message that you was not here no more. So, and the first thing I do when I saw that you was gone for an extended period of time at night, nobody had seen you, is I went and I checked the wind coil page, the inmate page, and I saw you was there. So as soon as I saw you was there, started making the rounds, trying to make sure we could get you out of jail. And then my first initial thoughts when I got the message was, what happened? Like, it was really just bewilderment. Just what could have gone down? What happened at Mobile? What did they do? What happened? I'm trying to think. The charge was a disorderly. I'm thinking, how did they get him on disorderly? So it was really just trying to figure out what happened. What was your call? What was your reaction to where you got a call? I called you and told you. What was your call? Just waking up to this?
I was asleep. I was asleep and got woke up to Leslie's in jail. And so, just started stuffing money in my pockets and get my clothes on. Probably in other order, probably put my clothes on and then stuffing money in pockets. And on my way to the jail. And, that gets to the learning process of how to raise the money to get people out. We start, there for a few weeks we were, there was a steep learning curve about how to try to raise the money to get people out without using the bond fund. We were, if we got arrested, at the time we were thinking, if we could get ourselves out and not use the bond fund, that would be a benefit. So yeah, I just jumped into action, went down and bailed him out.
Then what would come from that was like I don't want to say a scramble, just making sure that everything okay down here, trying to make sure that everything in order, making sure that really it was just making sure that, because you got arrested, it was like 10, it was late into the evening. It was late into the evening by the time we got here, get set up, and to where we find out about your arrest is closer to midnight. So we down here trying to make sure everything okay. Then I get word from somebody that the police are on their way, and my first thought is, they're ready to do it right. They're trying to. My first thought was, okay, they arrested you, hoping, okay, nobody will be here and they can come and take all this stuff and it'd be over just like that. So that's my first thought. So I got worried that they on their way. I'm standing right up here. I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna get this live going, and I can watch them get the whole thing. Y'all can see them pull up. And I'm thinking, okay, as soon as I get out the car, I'm saying, this is all my stuff. I'm claiming it. This is all my stuff. And they go, Ari? I go, yeah. And he go, you got a warrant. And I was shocked. I was almost speechless. It was almost like there had not been this is past midnight, and no warrant had been served like that. It was one warrant that had been issued against a protester, but that person had turned themselves in. So to have warrants issued like this and see all these police officers pull up to the side of the road like this for a warrant, and I don't know. I don't even think to ask what the warrant for. My mind not even there to think that I could get arrested at this point. My mind just, this stuff is all mine. So this stuff is all mine. I'm claiming it. Y'all not taking it. To where, oh shit, they taking me. They not here for this stuff. They taking me. They taking me. Oh shit. So then I gotta toss my phone real quick, making sure they don't try to keep my phone or nothing like that. Then I learned that it do stem from knocking on the windows.
Is it from knocking or is it from the Nancy John?
I don't know. I really, we are still unclear about what the exact nature of the charge is, but I know it do say it stemmed from the alderman and other person inauguration, and that was a bit of a foreshadowing of things to come. It was a bit of a preview into what their play would be when it comes to some of the nature of these arrests, and what would come from that, what would happen, one of the craziest things to come back to is trash being all over the place. And you talk to chalk everywhere, going back and watching the videos, police are there several different times just during that morning alone. That's a morning where she go, can you let me talk?
Yeah. I think sort of the morning was a residual effect of being arrested and being so caught off guard. I think I guess one of the best parts, and we've been in a position where we've been lucky enough, or part of it is planning and part of it is luck. You know, I think that somebody said something about luck is about like planning properly or something like that. I don't know, but thankfully when I got arrested that day, it was somebody that was down here as opposed to it not being anybody being down here. And so I think one of my main emotions and main feelings that I had as I got arrested and as I was sitting in the car was being upset that I was arrested and I didn't see I didn't see it coming. I wasn't expecting it. I think for me personally, I've gotten to a place where when I expect arrest, it's a lot easier to deal with as opposed to when I'm surprised by it. And so my emotions were building up as I was sitting inside the car. Even once once they told me I walked to Mobile, used the bathroom, and somebody else was being spoken to by the police, or the police was speaking to somebody else. I asked the person if they was all right. They said they was all right. I stood around for a little bit longer. Another car came. Police came, told me I had a warrant. They arrested me. So as I was sitting in the car, I was thankful that Kay was down here. I'm not gonna lie, I was hoping that like he would come up. I was like, where Kay at? Where he gonna come up? He gonna come looking for me. But I also knew that at some point you would be able to tell somebody I wasn't there, as opposed to if it would have been longer and somebody else would have had to come and find out, or if they would have been able to double back and swoop and take some of the stuff that's been down here, and so, hey, what's up?
But to that point,
and so, yeah.
The only reason I didn't walk up is I felt that it was a tactic on their part, because I gave you a 30-minute window, and when I didn't see you back here in 30 minutes, because I know you said, I'll be right back. That was the last thing you said, is I'll be right back. When I saw you,
famous last words.
When I looked at my watch after 30 minutes and I said, if it is going down, they're probably hoping that anyone over here would go there and then they would take everything. So that's why I was kind of torn, and I started reaching out to people and saying, look and see if he was processed after the first hour. I said, I don't want to leave the space, because even then I didn't know where you were, but I said, if I leave, I think they're going to just grab everything. Right. So it was just a weird catch-22. I wanted to go, but I felt like they had, maybe I gave them too much credit, but you know what I'm saying?
No, I don't disagree.
I felt like some of them, when it came
that's a possibility.
Said, okay, I see an opening, just take everything.
No, yeah, I do think that's a possibility. And I don't think that anything. I think it all went fine and everything worked out the right way. But I think once I had gotten out and once I was inside the jail, I knew already that that they would have to be having a warrant out for Ari if they had a warrant out for me for what it was, and they told me the date that it was and when it was issued. And so I think that once I got out of jail and I got here. it was almost sort of a relief for a little bit, and then but the moment I was pulling up was the moment that they were coming and arresting you. Me and Terry got here at the exact same moment you were getting arrested and hauled away, and in the moment. And I think this has happened multiple times too, where there will be certain situations where I feel like going live and talking is not adequate enough of a situation, and a lot of times, and we're in a place now where we know that when certain things happen, we're not going to be able to turn out 100 people or turn out 200 people based off of previous turnouts. And so I tried to, as I've done multiple times, figure out what was in my power to do in the moment. And usually that goes back to things that we've done before. And one of the things that we've done, it was after day 100, was, we littered around, City Hall, and I know that's not something that everybody is going to agree with. That's going to be something that'll be polarizing. I personally think that if it's not polarizing for us at this moment, then it's not successful. Everything that we've done in some manner or another has been polarizing. What did he say? Oh. I was like, damn. I thought he said, "Hey, dumbass." I was like, damn. That's so bold. That's so bold. There's so many of us right here. I was like, damn, it worked though, because then nobody say nothing back. I was like, damn, how you know that was gonna work? And so I was upset, and I went to the trash cans that was around, and it wasn't hidden or in secret, and it wasn't scattered all around downtown. It was just concentrated to the area of City Hall. It was chalk that was at the disposal. We have been doing something where we have been centering the chalk to mainly City Hall. I think this is one of the first times where the chalk was spread out to the other areas of downtown. One of the things that I wrote and when I used the chalk in other areas was blame City Hall, or this is happening because of City Hall. And I think in general, my main emotion that day, and even still now when certain things happen, is that we have to get into the mind state of for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. When somebody gets beat up by the police, we're in a place where I don't believe, can go and find the police officer and beat the police officer up. I don't think that's going to be something that'll be conducive to addressing the issue, and I just don't think that we have are in the position to do something like that. But it has to be something that happens the next day after that, where people are made aware of the incident. People that next morning, that next day, knew something had happened downtown. It was a disagreement that I got into with multiple other business owners that were in this area after that. And I know that if they got in a disagreement with me, and I know this on good word because I've heard this from people, that they called City Hall and they were calling time and they were calling the police, and it meant that and I believe that they know this even to this day, and I believe that's why they execute the warrants in some of the ways that they have. That they know that if they arrest one of us, something happens for them arresting one of us. If they tear down a memorial, something happens when they tear down the memorials. If they issue citations, all of these different things that happen, we have gotten into a place in which they know that there will be some type of reaction for it. And I genuinely believe it's one of the reasons why less things have happened in a certain manner. And it's one of the reasons why we've dealt with some of less microaggressions in some manner or another. And so for me, that's some of the first thoughts that I have. And that was my main, thought process and my reaction.
I think to his credit, as far as that poignant critique, because that's definitely a huge point. The microaggressions were minimized. And I feel that because of the microscope that's being placed from the occupation, that it's powerful enough because it's not being placed by the community at large. And I think that can be understated. The community at large is not holding them to the same bar, the same level of scrutiny that the movement and the supporters of the movement, and the comrades that we have, are. And I think it's huge. It's very telling for the city. But I also think what's also telling from last year all the way to this year, what hasn't been done citywide, for anyone that's on the live now that's criticizing and critiquing, the city's response wasn't to defund the police at all. The Justice Center received another $3 million, and I think RPD received money as well. That was the response of Rockford. But there were other major cities in America. The response was, we will take certain funds from the police and place it in the community, whether it be clergy, whether it be nonprofits and programs. That was a response after George Floyd. So I think it's very poignant on day 300, people that are still critiquing and criticizing and demonizing this movement, they're not focusing on the broad picture that the city's response, Rockford, Illinois' response, was not a response of compassion, and it's not a response that emulates any similarity to other major cities saying, I hear you, I see you.
I don't know. It is cities that I want to give too much credit to
Well,
what some of these cities doing. There's a lot of cities who have said they doing things that they have
Right.
not followed through with doing. So that I don't want to keep that.
Well, I'm saying for once,
One of the cities that said they was going to do a whole bunch of
right.
stuff and they ain't.
True. To your credit, that's absolutely true. But when you do a search on cities that did immediately fund programs and initiatives by taking funding out of the police force, or actually making real strides, real immediate strides that you could see the finances were deliberately dispersed in proper manner, and it was relatively quick. That's what I'm speaking to. When you saw the direct action from the city was a response. Rockford is still at a level, on a political level and with the police force, it's heavy pushback. It's not a conversation with the aldermen. It's not a conversation with the Chamber of Commerce. It's not a conversation with any politicians. It's not a visible conversation in the council meetings on Mondays at 5:00. It's not a conversation in Rockford. It's not a conversation with the state's attorney. No one's discussing any reconstruction of the police force or defunding, pulling funds out and putting into other programs by saying, we hear you, we see you. It's a deliberate pushback of they're isolating what needs to be done to a group of people, and they're pawning it off and hoping the city falls for it.
So what would take place next in the city market rollout was the press conference in the indoor city market, and the classic pan over, the classic pan over to the front page picture. What was your thoughts just about seeing that pan over and seeing it make the front page news? Leslie holding a photo of Denzel while these people are trying to promote this city market rollout. They're in full swing city market.
Well, it's related to almost everything that everyone has been saying when you think about how focusing on language is really just petty, in the scope of things. And the scene from the press conference could have been on the show. I don't know if it is a show, if it's not. Petty America, is that a show? But that could have been, that scene could have been on Petty America, the way that it transpired. But it was a very serious matter, though. That's the thing. Like, it's petty things being done around and about, like, very serious matters. Because the way that press conference transpired was racist, white supremacists, down to the core. Like, American racism or white supremacy, I guess you would say, in terms of the way that black people, women, or minorities were used, and without meaning to be offensive, the fact that they had a black woman give a keynote address, basically, or be one of the main speakers, market the whole thing around her, and then have her cook for the whole event was tragic. Tragic, yeah, tacky. Tacky. What's the other word? Trashy, tacky. It was very and as the great elder Neely Fuller Jr. said, as long as racism, white supremacy exists, any interaction between people of color and non-people of color will be one of three things: tacky, trashy, or terroristic. And that event was very tacky and trashy. But for most people, you would be the tacky element if you were looking at it from a petty perspective. Where the real trashy, almost terroristic, the effect that could have had on the young lady that they used like that. Yeah, and to see him in the window, I'm so happy that he did it. I'm so happy that he did it. He took that one for all of us. he took that one, but it just points to the issue that the relationship, the interaction is already tacky. No matter how respectable you act, no matter what language you use, the interaction is already either tacky, trashy, or terroristic. And we're talking about terroristic interactions when people are killed or brutalized by the police.
And what would stem from that was another arrest. What would stem from that was another arrest. What would stem from that was we got some good news and we got some bad news. But there was before that there was internal debate, internal questioning about the police have done however many 4 a.m. raids. They've taken a lot of things from us: canopies, books, hand warmers, blankets, chairs, a whole bunch of other different things, coolers.
At that point,
They had taken your weed?
when I got arrested.
They arrested on a warrant?
Okay.
Okay. So it was an internal debate. Okay, we got to get some of this stuff back, but how do we get it back? What's the best way to go about getting it back? And in the first attempt to trying to get this back, these items back, you can see it in the video. I don't know if any of y'all can go back and watch it. Yeah, you guys can go back and watch this video. You can see it where the police officer come up and he say, we got some good news and some bad news. And you can see Leslie look and turn around and see all the police officers surround him. And you can see one getting Beanie like inch closer, like he couldn't wait. He wanted to.
Sorry, did I say that it was great that the press conference was interrupted? That press conference, that was great.
So you can see him inch closer, and to where it would lead to another arrest on a warrant, and to where. We talked about this at the time, to where I'm not sure that's what they wanted. I'm not sure that's the way they wanted the arrest to go down. To where it did seem, again, they wanted that 2 a.m., 3 a.m. raid where they can arrest you and take all the stuff as well. But we're gonna keep going, and what would come. From now, we in full city market swing. We in full city market where this is First Friday, and to where the first thing we see is some memorials to be torn down, and that would be and has been a regular thing, to where almost every Friday we can wake up and expect 7 a.m., 8 a.m. City workers, city employees to come out here and tear down each memorial in this square, each memorial of somebody who has been killed by the police or died in police custody. And that is done when you do something like that on a Friday morning. It's directly tied into what's going on Friday night. It's directly tied. It's directly in preparation for the things that take place on Friday night. And what would also come from the memorial desecration would be the ordinance exploitation, the ordinance violations. And so, you want to go?
I can't hear you.
I was saying the ordinance violation, what would come from them tearing down the memorial so many times, it got to a point to where they started giving out ordinance violations about some of these things. And I don't know, do we have an accurate number about how much money they are seeking now?
No, we don't have an accurate number, because what they say on the sheet, that lady has gotten a fine, and it wasn't as much as we thought it was going to be. So I don't, like the paper says $750 per day per poll that they cite you for, and they cite different people, different amounts of polls each time. I've never gotten the full amount. There's 15 polls, and the most I've ever gotten is 11. This last paper I got was 11 polls for 28 days. So I don't know what the math is on that, but I would say it's over $100,000 just for that one paper. And I was up to 120 before that. So I believe me alone, I'm up to by what the paper says, I'm over $200,000 just myself. And I think, other people are probably, pushing 100. So I think we're close. I think a guesstimate from what the papers say, we're near $500,000.
Hold on. We're gonna get into this one more thing. Particularly pertaining to this day, and what else happened? Must have happened in the early morning hours the next day. Was some flyers got put up in the city market area. Some flyers was Faustin and Jose Gonzalez Jr. Some of the flyers of the graphic that have been made for them were put up on different light poles in the city market area. This happened overnight. This happened overnight, and then after a brief period of time, leaving them alone, leaving them unattended. What did you find upon coming back?
Yes, I left them for a half hour. I came back to the car, and because I wanted to be here in case there was a raid. Leslie was here by himself. Oh, we got a low battery. Leslie was here by himself, and the raids were still happening somewhat frequently, and so I came back here for the 4 o'clock and was here for about a half hour, and then went back down there, and somebody had spray painted the flyers, about 6 or 7 of the flyers that somebody had put up. some mysterious persons had put up in the before that, and but yeah, they had brown spray painted. So I just put fresh ones right over the top, just taped them right over the top of it. But then the next morning, the city went around and took them all down anyway. So they were only up for a few hours.
We're gonna keep going. This is a very heavy day. This was a very low day. We're gonna get finished with the rest of this day. Hold on. So what was coming next was you conveniently had court scheduled that day. That was the afternoon, right? It was that afternoon, and that was the first city market. So. Just to recap some of the things that happened up to this day, it's some flyers were put up in the city market footprint. They were spray painted. They would be torn down by city employees, who also would go on to tear down memorials in one big sweep. And then what would come next?
During city market, like
No. That's for the Denzel. This is the first week where they had went down. And they had tore down the flyers, and they came up and they tore down all the memorials. And then what would come next, the next thing that would happen that day was your court day.
Yeah. And we already sort of, and it's been a few different times where certain things have happened where we have had an inclination of what might happen. There's been different times and different days where things were sort of set up in a manner where it was likely something may happen, whether it be certain times where we thought raids would happen, certain times we thought memorials would get torn down, certain times we thought chalk would get washed away, even certain times we thought people would get arrested and warrants would be issued. And so when we realized that the court date was on the same day as the first city market, and with the understanding of all the things that are considered to be violations of your bond release, that it was more likely than not that once I went to court that I would be remanded into custody, and that I would have to we'd have to, raise money and get me bonded out, or get the bond fund to have me bonded out. But one way or another, we weren't caught off guard or caught by surprise that I ended up being arrested at my court date. I think one of the main things for me was that the emotion of not being able to be at the first city market with how many things had happened in between the final city market and this first city market. And then also, for me, I think one of the things was it felt like I didn't know what else was going to happen from that day. I think one of the things that was a very traumatic or draining or dramatic. I don't know what the exact word I would want to use. For me, last year was getting arrested and then coming out and finding out all these litany list of things that had happened while I was arrested. And so I think the main thing that I feared at that point was I would be arrested, and then as I was sitting in jail, I would see all of y'all come through the jail or see different other people come through the jail, or that different things may happen down there that I wouldn't be able to. It's a fire truck. It's a big-ass fire truck. And so I think for me that was one of the biggest blows. And even once they handcuffed me and took me to the back, waiting to get taken to the jail, I think one of the things that has been sort of oh shit. Friday. Damn. Okay, we just some technical difficulties. We just readjusting. The wind. It's windy. Day 300. Windy day. It's a windy day. Yeah. We have seen worse. We have seen much worse wind. We've seen worse. We used to hold on the sides of the canopies. Yes, we have dealt with some worse winds. I might have to turn it a little. Okay, there we go. I can move in a little bit. But yeah, I think those were some of my thoughts of the day of City Market. A day of the first City Market in the court is just sort of not being 100% surprised, but still being sort of like disheartened that I wasn't able to be there.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll come from that while you were in jail. Now we're in a place where, and again, like you said, we weren't really caught off guard or caught by surprise. We weren't we was almost the exact opposite of the last few arrests, to where we were shocked or they were unexpected. This was one where we could we knew that this was very strong likelihood. So now we're in a place where we were in a place where, okay, this happened for sure. This happened finally. Now what can we? Now let's get back to work and making sure we still have some type of presence, and we're still actively protesting City Market. And so during the preparation, while he's still in court, I'm walking around seeing how the layout is for the first time, seeing how it is, and how do you say it? A little birdie. Yeah, a little birdie told me that pedestrians are allowed in the Rockford Register Star parking lot, and no cars are. Anybody that's on foot is allowed. It's not a part of the City Market footprint, not a part of the permit either. So I might need to put this on. What came from that is the decision to be posted up there with megaphones, with different signs and things, and trying to do our best to make sure there's no unnecessary arrest, but also making sure that there is a presence and making sure that we can continue for this full City Market season. This wind is blowing it off.
Windy and cold. Day 200 is windy and cold.
Yep.
Now we had day 300.
300. Windy and cold and colder.
What the fuck is happening in this city?
So, just milestones that would take place next were the 1 year anniversary after George Floyd was murdered, and the 1 year anniversary since May 30th. And I'm gonna pass this to you. Just what was your thoughts at the time that as the anniversary came up of some of these things, and the you had a traumatic thing happen to you on May 30th. So what was your thoughts reflecting back on that now over a year later?
Well, that it triggered all this. Like May 30th was very traumatic, and I'm still traumatized by it. But the being a year from it made me think about how one thing led to another from it. We're down to that it led to me speaking at several of the marches that were right away, and then being involved with the sit-in at the jail, and the throwing food on Leslie, and yelling at him, and then what happened with Ariadne, and and then that's when we started having our first conversation that we wanted to do something because the other group had stopped doing stuff around May 30th. They were still active and wanted to do something about other things, but May 30th had gone by the wayside. And then Food Truck Tuesdays and City Market, and then that just steamrolled. And then as soon as City Market's over, 1 week later, it was the first time that it really felt like it was over, because City Market was done, and I didn't have that grinding feeling in my stomach on Friday afternoon. And then boom, Tyrus Jones was shot, and I went to the scene, and it was very disturbing. And we then talked the whole next day about what we were going to do, and tried to get the ball rolling, talking to people, finding out what's happening. And the next day we decided to come here. That was 300 days ago. And then you can see the days. We have these fine people here I'm with have made a list of the days. You can go back and you can look at what happened on almost every day. So that has all happened in these 300 days. And then we come around to a full year of since May 30th, and that was a big deal. That was a big deal for me. Yeah, it was, and it didn't seem like when it came, it didn't seem like it was a big deal to other people. We had a small turnout, and we feel like over thousands of people were involved, and only a few showed up for the year. Was disappointing. So I got to get going. I'm gonna hit the road. I'm gonna be back at 2:00.
Okay, you're good. Okay. But next thing. Next big thing that would take place. Day 301. Next thing we would happen big was the Memorial Day parade. Yeah. And I'm beyond. I hate parades. They're so long and unnecessary. I'd actively try to not go to a parade. I can't think of one time I tried to sit through one full parade. So this Memorial Day parade is the first time to where, and this is the thing to where they're coming to us. They're coming, this is the way they always go. But we, at this point, we have been here 200 something days, and to where their layout is coming directly towards us. So, and again, it gets to a point to where we have to talk and, okay, how do we have some type of impact? How do we have maintain some type of presence down here? For a second, I thought we had to be spot banging with people, trying to kick some folks out of these spots. but that didn't have to happen. It wasn't a big turnout. It wasn't a huge turnout. But what were the main tactics that was used is just trying to inform some of these people that are in attendance for this parade while these police officers walk through. It was a silent protest. It was a silent protest until the police came. Then it was done for the most part. Then what was done in an effort to enlighten people is to inform some of these people who are here in attendance who might not know that Kurt Whisenhand walking in the street, he waving at you like he a nice cop, like he a nice guy, he murdered somebody, knowing that the history behind some of these police officers. And the reaction to some of these people who attended the parade, what would you say the reaction was to some of the people who attended the Memorial Day parade?
Well, a lot of the, I'm gonna get into it. A lot of the crowd for the Memorial Day parade is gonna be, different from a parade where basically is a more celebratory mood, where they're throwing out candy and they got, people coming out to celebrate and it's all happy and cheerful and stuff. It's a Memorial Day parade, so, they're obviously honoring people who have lost their lives. It's supposed to be somber. It's supposed to be, in remembrance of people. It's not supposed to be like a chipper thing that a lot of people bring their kids out to. So the crowd that we saw was mostly adult and then mostly elderly or mostly middle-aged to older people. So, of course, when you have, an older group of people, typically, historically, the younger generations are going to be more progressive. So, the inverse of that is that the older generations are going to be a little more traditional, conservative. So, of course, what we saw from a lot of people out here, whether or not, they themselves were veterans, whether or not they knew people who had served or had family members that had served or that had died or whatever. The idea that they came out with was that they were there to pay respects, basically, to people they knew, people they didn't know. It didn't matter. So, of course, when they see anything that they feel like goes against that, they felt like, I don't know, I don't even want to speak to how they feel, but, you just have to imagine that somebody feels like it's disrespectful that we would be out there and, continuing our protest, continuing our occupation while they had this parade going on. So a lot of them were upset about that. A lot of them were, upset about the fact that we were writing or had written things in chalk. But the responses, at least if I'm remembering correctly, a lot of the responses that we were getting, like, it didn't really have much to do with like the reason for the parade itself. It just felt like the same respectability politics. Oh, why do you have to use that word? Why do you have to say it this way? Why are you writing that? Stuff like that. And didn't really feel like they were trying to relate it back to, okay, we're out here having a parade to remember people that fought in wars, which the floats and the didn't they though? Didn't they have that one float and the guy was leaned up against the wall and the people on the other side was like...
They didn't have floats.
Okay, they maybe had a float. Take the S off. Float. Anyways. So, the reaction, it wasn't nothing to do with, oh, we're out here for, the parade, or we're out here for Memorial Day to remember fallen soldiers, or to this, or, people. It was, why are you writing that? Oh, no, we support the police. Oh, no, what do you, just wanting to contradict our message and contradict what we were trying to raise awareness for, but it didn't really seem like anybody else had the reasoning to back up their contradiction as, anything related to Memorial Day. It was just imperialism and nationalism, and that's what they were using as the basis of their argument against our protest.
I'd say we had. I went down farther for Memorial Day Parade. I went down farther to wherever the announcer was. And I don't know who the announcer was, but man, that dude was an asshole. I have no idea who it was, but he was saying the same type of things that some of these racist white folks that was saying, they were saying. So it's a lot on the video where I'm walking down and I'm just saying, he clapping for you, he murdered somebody. I'm trying to say these things over and over, just trying to make sure enough people know about these things and know about some of these history of these police officers. And it's multiple people who approached me and was trying to be confrontational, and they was just there. I don't know. But the next big thing that would happen was the announcement, or the story came out that Odo Poole is running for sheriff for Boone County. And this is something that we have tried to talk about a good amount and try to highlight a good amount. The fact that Odo Poole is someone who murdered somebody in the basement of a church in front of children, who has 6 total incidences of pulling out his gun and firing it, and now he running for sheriff. And that come from things like when the city of Rockford gave him a settlement for $700,000. The first thing Tom did when he get into office, is give him a $700,000 settlement, along with health care for 10 years and making a deposit to his pension, to where the total amount spent on Odo Poole is almost $1 million. Think about that. The estate of Mark Barmore was allegedly won $1.1 million. And some people say they never got that money. And Odo Poole almost got the same exact amount. And now he's running for sheriff. And what would take place in between that was, it was one city market where it was just live from city market, where it was a rainy day, and it was little to no, well, there was one interaction with the Metros, but other than that, it was no police interaction. It was because it was rainy and maybe it was a low turnout, they let it set up, and we were able to set up the table and with the same setup as this down in the city market footprint. Then the next week is Joel Givens week. The next week is when Joel Givens come into the picture, and he's a police officer who, from what I can tell, spent most of his time in training, but he got promoted to assistant deputy chief of District 1 at the beginning of this year. So this is his first interactions during city market. His first time being in charge as the assistant deputy chief of District 1 of a city market. And again, at the beginning of this day, memorials were torn down. Again, flyers of Denzel Duvant were put up later in the afternoon, and city workers, while city market is going on, while this event is taking place, they go around to as many light posts as they can find and tear down photos of Denzel Duvant and stuff it in trash bags. Cut down this man's face and throw it in trash bags. And I believe I was up here, and the people that I believe people was down there chalking, but nobody had a phone on. I think nobody had a phone on them. So I go down there and I record them, and the Metro come up. And as soon as I get down there, the Metro come up. He following me all around while I record them, and he's saying, "No, you can't protest. You can't protest." And I'm telling him, I'm not protesting. Filming them tearing down photos of Denzel Duvant, that's not protesting. If anything, I think it would be the exact opposite. Them tearing down photos of Denzel Duvant could be and should be considered a protest. Them going out their way to tear down photos of this young man's face, where all he has done is be beat up by the police. All he has done is be assaulted and brutalized by the police. This is not somebody who assaulted their family or they had some long run-ins with them. This is just a young man who got assaulted by the police.
And this is a time where it had already started, so they're walking through crowds of people with trash bags full of pictures of Denzel.
So what come next is the chalking would continue, and now we get into a point to where it's a back and forth going on between Joe Gibbons. What was your first initial reaction to where Joe Gibbons first come up and talk to you, and it's your first interaction?
Yeah, he came up. We had already had a nice amount of the section down there chalked. There were multiple people who were coming and picking up chalk. Some of the people who were coming and picking up chalk weren't even necessarily. Some of the people who were coming and picking up chalk weren't people who were necessarily part of the organization or part of the May 30th Alliance. There was a few different times where people who I didn't even know or hadn't seen before would pick up chalk and write. So it had gotten to a place where it was clear that it was clear that this wasn't something that was just being done by one or two people. And it was also clear that City Market was fine to go on a little bit farther away. It was fine. It was clear that the people chalking and City Market could both be things that went on at the same time without it being detrimental to City Market. And so I think by the time that Joe Gibbons had came, so much stuff had been chalked and so many things had happened that when he told us that we can no longer chalk or we couldn't, put chalk in that specific area anymore because it was inside the City Market permit, I wasn't even, I wasn't bothered by it. I wasn't surprised by it. I figured that we were going to have multiple different contingency plans, which is something that we've had to do at any City Market demonstration or City Market protest that we put on. So my main thing once we made contact was to get a set of rules down so we could know exactly what the playing field was like. Even last year at City Market, that would be my initial contact with any police officer, whoever the commanding officer on the scene would be to get what the rules of play were going to be for that week. So I asked Joe Gibbons if we could continue to chalk in the area. He said no. I asked him if we could chalk in the areas outside of the City Market permit. He said yes. He said we couldn't have the megaphones in the City Market permit area, but they were fine to be outside the City Market permit area. So we went. I turned the siren on some megaphones, and I sat them outside the City Market permit area. I asked him if it was fine to have music in the City Market permit area. He said that was something that was fine. I asked him if it was okay for us to be within this permit area of City Market, and he said that was also fine. He even went as far as to say that if we wanted to, we could go inside the City Market and get something to eat and talk to people. And he said we still had our right to freedom of speech and all of these different things. And then maybe 20 or 25 minutes would pass, which maybe even be too much. Maybe I would say more like 15, 20 minutes would pass. Joe Gibbons would leave. We would sort of talk amongst each other, and a few different things would happen. And then Gibbons would come back and say, now you can't have the music within the permit area. So that would be a conversation that me and him would have, where I would ask him how come we couldn't have the music in the area. He would go on to say because the music was considered to be a protest. I would ask him how the music was considered a protest, and he said, it was. We couldn't have the music on. So I turned the music down on the speaker, and so then I asked him the next thing, are you going to be telling me that, we can't be here, and is that going to be the next thing that happened? And he said, no, that's not going to be the next thing that happened. And I told him how I've went through this before, where last year at City Market, it started off where we can do anything not do anything we want, but we can protest outside of the City Market permit area, which turned into us walking on the crosswalk And then eventually the crosswalk got closed and it became illegal to walk on the crosswalk, and people got arrested for walking on the crosswalk. And so we've seen multiple times, and the same thing, we walked into parks, Millennium Park, Joe Marino Park, and then weeks would pass where the Joe Marino Park would become an area you couldn't be in safely. Millennium Fountain Park would be a area that will become part of the city market permit area. And so what we've seen happen with each protest that we've done, which I think is a credit towards the success that they've been and how well we've executed them, is that the rules of play have changed. What's allowed has changed. They've moved the goalpost. And so I was asking him basically, is the goalpost going to be moved? And he was, again, assuring me, no, it's not. That's not going to happen. You can be here. And then about 10 minutes later, actually probably not even that much. I'm trying to put in too much time on this. Yeah.
You got on the phone call. He never leave the vision of sight. He turn around. He on the phone call. Don't know who he on the phone call with. But at the conclusion with the phone call is he coming up to you, and I don't know what exactly. Do you remember what exactly he said?
Yeah, he just said you're under arrest. He said you're under arrest. They said I asked him what the charge was. He said criminal trespass. He said that one of the metros came and told each of us individually. He said the metro spoke to each of us individually and told us that we couldn't be in the area. And one of the things that happened at the initial conversation is I asked him if people continued to talk in the area, what would happen? And he said that the metros would come up to the person and tell them that they had to leave, and if they didn't leave at that point, they'd be charged with criminal trespass. And so then once he would charge us with criminal trespass to say we were under arrest, I would ask him, nobody ever told us to leave. Nobody said nothing about us having to not, or that we couldn't be in here. And he would say later on that one of the metros did say that to him, which was a lie. And I would ask him which metro said it, and he wouldn't tell me which metro said it. As time has went on and we've been out here, this is a little bit further down the line, but one of the metro supervisors who works at City Market has, I've filmed him on phone and asking him why he lied on a police report and why he lied on police reports. And he said, not verbatim, but basically, yeah, I lied on a police report and I'd do it again if I had to. And this is on camera. I ain't posted this video up yet, but I'll post this video on the Facebook today. And so I think that for me, that was one of the things that also stands out in these last 100 days is the amount of lying that's happened on police reports and the amount of fabrication that's happened on police reports in order for them to be able to make an arrest. I think that that's another form of the goalpost being moved. I think that they would. I honestly 100% believe that they would prefer if we were throwing bricks in windows and spray painting things and doing things that they could give us these different high felonies for and these different charges for, because for them that would make their job easier. But since everything that we've done has been within our legal capacity and our legal rights and our legal grounds, they've sort of had to, again, move the goal line to get these arrests, and they've had to lie on police reports to get these arrests and fudge the numbers, to get these arrests. And so, those are some of my thoughts. And that's what he said. That was the first things he said to me at the arrest.
And I had maybe like a split second to where I think, oh, damn, Leslie getting arrested. Oh, damn, they got me too. Oh, damn, I'm getting arrested too. But then in the midst of all these things going on in City Market season, it's one big thing that happened. That's the fire at Chemtool, which I still think messed with my lungs a little bit.
Kay definitely says it. Kay definitely said the fire at Chemtool messed with his lungs. Chemtool okay money.
But another thing that is happening in the midst of this is the rollout for Juneteenth, the rollout for some of these events. And what did you think? I'm going to pass this to you. What do you think about the rollout for Juneteenth and some of the events that was put on at, I believe, at Davis Park and at the Conservatory?
Again, I think we can measure everything by a couple of statements that the elder Neely Fuller Jr. gave us. And one of the things that he said was that the number one cause of all social ills in America or in a racist society is that racism, white supremacy, the cause of all of the social ills, and that as long as white supremacy, racism exists, the relationship between black people or people of color and white people or non-people of color is going to be a bad relationship. It's not going to be a full relationship. It's not going to be a quality relationship. Nothing constructive is going to come from it. And so when we look at, Juneteenth in Rockford or even in other places, if we're not taking those moments to constructively deal with white supremacy, racism, ends up being tacky and trashy or terroristic.
What up? Oh, it's an
It's the
inside.
inside. Okay.
But a question to other people, I guess, the dynamics of, even in particular to Rockford, where Juneteenth is used as a moment to almost have a facade of good racial relations. I don't think that's the case in many other places, but it's used to have a facade of that racial relations are past the white supremacy stage, locally or nationally. That globally. And so it's not being petty or making personal criticisms about promoters of events or people that do these events, but to just say it's a simple measurement, and I don't, what is your view of, or anyone's view of, whether they thought
Hold on, let me see what.
We connected. It's okay, now it's connected. It's back.
Okay, yeah, we good.
How's Draco?
Okay. We got a little bit more time. We got about 3% left.
Like an hour, 2 hours ago. I don't know what time it is. A little bit ago. We just had. Okay.
No, we good.
One more thing that we have noticed, and one more thing that has been new, is the warrants on Friday, to where again it's the same type of thing, to where why they tear down the memorials on Friday, to make sure don't nobody see them as they walk past or go into the entry city market. It's the same reason why they would arrest people at 4 p.m. on Fridays, or issue out warrants at 4 p.m. on Fridays, to where they're again actively trying to do not have a protest there, trying to make sure that people that attend city market and that are going to go down and give them some of their money and give them some of their business, make sure that those people don't know about the name Denzel Duvant, or don't know or can't see the name and faces of these young men and women on these posts. So the warrants on Fridays, in a way that never mind. I'm trying to I got enough phone battery. Trying to prioritize. Okay. Two more things we can get through. It's been the build up to the 4th of July that was met with a lot of vigilante chalk washers.
Yeah.
Vigilante. What did you think when you saw people coming down here with buckets of water, or just doing everything they can during the build-up of 4th of July, just trying to erase the chalk?
Well, I don't know if they have like some type of clinical psychological term for people who don't know how crazy they look, or don't know how crazy a thing is that they're doing, and then when they realize it, or how petty. And like they said, racism is like some type of mental illness. It make you do weird, or it makes you think. I think I heard you talking about on the live where, sometimes white people think that they're doing better than they are just because racism exists, and it gives them some, so when you saw someone come down here with a big bucket in the middle. I don't know how hot it was that day. Just one bucket and a mop or a push broom, and had thought at one point that they could get rid of a whole sidewalk of chalk that it takes power washers normally to get rid of. And then to realize in that moment that what you were doing was stupid and wasn't going to work and petty, does that make you think about some of the other things or some of your other actions or thoughts? Or it was just crazy, and to go back and watch it, it's hilarious when he realized that he couldn't. He broke running. He broke running, jumped in the passenger side, and drove off in total defeat. But he still had white supremacy, so he wasn't that. He had scored at least 1 point.
He got 3. He watched away 3 things. He put up 3 things for white supremacy.
These vigilantes would be consistent. I feel like we got more vigilantes in these last 100 days. One of them, we only know the identity of one, where we at a point right now where we got a slasher out here who is slashing memorials of only the black individuals who have been killed by the police, and also we have a greaser. We have a greaser, somebody who greased some of the light poles where the memorials normally are, and we also have Clyde or Ralph. I think that's how you guys say it, Clyde or Ralph, who is an old man who lived inside the old city hall, who at the bequest of the landlord, I believe, tore down the memorial for Shannon because landlords say this is chaos. Having a memorial up is